Okay, welcome to the Art and Tech for a Better World YouTube channel. Today we are so honored to have here with us Vicki Harrison, which is the leader of the GoodforMEdia platform, an innovative experience developed at the UC Stanford University. And I want to formal present Vicki. Vicki Harrison is MSW, has over 20 years of experience working within the US public health, education, and mental health sectors, developing and managing innovative community-based programs at the local, state, national, and international levels. As program director for Stanford Psychiatry Center for Youth Mental Health and Wellbeing, she implements a broad portfolio of community-based projects, promoting well-being, early intervention, and increased access to mental health services, particularly for young people ages 12 to 25. She's leading the team implementing AllCo, a first of its kind integrated youth mental health model in the US, as well as building a national media and mental health initiative, partnering with the media, mental health, and technology sectors to enhance the positive impact of media on youth mental health and well-being. She also serves as a founding member of the TikTok Content Advisory Council. Is it right?
Yes.
We'll have to first, before to begin in talking about the topics, to present the audience why we're so interested in this experience that Vicki developed. And I want to say that for Art and Tech for a Better World, GoodforMEdia is a leading case in the social media emerged from a new generation of developers who, since the original idea and during all the development process, are aware of our digital rights and health. We found that GoodforMEdia features this healthy profile, a platform focused on a particular audience, developed by users, led by specialized professionals at the University Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Science at UC Stanford University, developed within a researching environment that requires a participation agreement of users. Even more, it requires parents' permission for under 18, that preserve private contact information and permit to remove personal information. A platform that not allows submitting works of people who are not directly submitting the content. That includes a participation guidelines, and with a simple and beautiful and effective design that includes awareness advice for well-being. Really designed with appropriate art according to its goals. So we are so charmed with this experience that you live. We'd love to ask you a lot of things, but we will try to ask some questions. And the first one, we would love him to know, first of all, about the Center for Youth Mental Health and Wellbeing that started in Stanford University as a general environment. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to talk with you about this project and about our work. I'm excited to talk to you today, and I'm happy to start off by sharing a little bit about the Center for Youth Mental Health and Wellbeing. It's about 5 years old, and it started as a way to really frame some of the projects we were working on here in the Department of Psychiatry in the School of Medicine at Stanford. Really, we were trying to do a lot of work, what they call upstream intervention, where it's really focusing more on prevention and early intervention for young people. So trying to address issues before they become more severe. And it's something that we need a lot more attention and resources dedicated to, and at least in the United States. And we focus a lot on the 12 to 25-year-old population, since that's really when there's a lot of changes in the brain that's still developing, and it's a golden and vulnerable opportunity for young people in their brain development. And it's where they need a lot of support, and there's a lot of transitions happening in their lives. So our goals are really to try to help increase access to support for young people in that phase of life. Also to work, we do a lot of work decreasing the stigma around mental health and mental illness, which still is pretty pervasive and is often a barrier for young people reaching out for help. So we do a lot of community events. We have a variety of programs. We work with schools. We work with some industry partners. So we're a small but growing team that's trying to do a lot in this space. And of course, the Media and Mental Health Initiative is part of our center's work. And it's really how we can leverage media to be more of a supportive role in the lives of young people rather than something that's challenging their mental health.
Okay, thank you very much, very clear. Looking days before or years before, how you got involved with social media and mental health issue, and if it was a personal option, an institutional option of university, or both things that generate this opportunity to generate this project?
Yeah, I would say it's a little bit of both. I think that I've always worked in this prevention and wellness space and always with young people. And I have always thought that the media plays a pretty important role in just the way that you conceptualize your role in the world and try to understand the norms and the culture and how to act and how your actions are perceived. And I think that it's underappreciated how much that can have an impact on young people growing up. And I think we see even more of that now with social media because there's so much to compare yourself to. And so I think that's something that it's hard for young people to sort out. So I think if I'm going to do any kind of program work with young people, I need to really understand the role of media in their lives and hold it as a pretty significant factor. I mean, we're certainly spending more time with media than we are probably with our family members. So they're getting as much influence from their phones as they are probably from their parents or their teachers and educators. So it's an important consideration, good and bad. And then I think one of the reasons that it became an initiative of our center was some of it came from some suicide clusters that we experienced in our local area in Palo Alto, and in trying to support the community through those times, we were looking at the way the media was portraying the reports of the suicides and found that they were falling pretty short of some of the recommended guidelines for how you should speak responsibly and write responsibly about suicide in the media. And so we got involved trying to improve that as a whole, and there's a lot of room for improvement. So that kind of brought us into that space from that additional perspective of trying to reduce the contagion effect that media can sometimes have on young people, especially.
Okay, this is so interesting because you are working in an area that is a humanistic area within a technology university, no? And this is so interesting because this is one of our original ideas to, we often take for a better word, to find the crossroads between the human science and the tech science. No? So this is so interesting for us. When we find you working in this place and with this initiative, I pay attention to your work. So very interesting. And another point that we were thinking about talking with you is we would like to know how GoodforMEdia project was created from 0 point of the original motivation up to the development process. It's clear.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I would say that it was really born out of just ideas that I had in my head after, looking at this area and the impact of social media on the lives of young people. I really feel like we need to kind of redefine the norms and the values that we want for technology platforms to represent and to play in the lives of young people. And it seems like we're starting to do that more now, but we developed all these really elaborate, amazing platforms before we did that work. And so I think we need to kind of reevaluate as a culture how we want platforms to be used, what we want to be conveyed through them, what we want access to, especially when it comes to young people's access. And so I've been thinking about that work, and I think that there's a lot happening, especially internationally. I don't think as much is happening here in the US, but the United Nations Convention for the Rights of the Child just added their general amendment saying that the digital platforms should be included in their work, which is a big step forward. But it's going to take a while for us to all really come together, and we might not be able to come together with one set. It might be very much culture specific or country specific. And so in the meantime, I do a lot of work with young people, and in talking with them, I see the struggles that they're having in just handling some of the difficult situations that come up on their social media interactions. And especially talking to some of the older teens, those that are older and those maybe that are going off to school or starting to work, they really have come up with a lot of coping mechanisms and a lot of strategies to get around the things that are challenging to them when they are engaging in social media, or they've gone through some hard times and had some dips in their self-esteem or feelings, and they've come back up after working through it. And so they have a lot of wisdom and life experience to share that is probably more more on target than anything that us professionals could say, because they are basically experts in the platforms that they're using on a very daily basis. So I saw an opportunity for them to engage as peer mentors with their peers and younger teens and what we call tweens, almost teens, so that they can start looking to some of these older young people that they look up to, and they might be willing to listen to more than they would a teacher or a parent or a mental health professional, just to hear what they've been doing, things that they've come across, just to create some of that general media literacy and awareness that we really need them to adopt in order to navigate some of the complexities of these platforms, while hopefully we'll be able to support them with better policies, better product design eventually. But in the meantime, this is a way that they can get some awareness and some support and some tips and strategies for that. So it was an idea that emerged that way. And then it actually helped when COVID happened, because I had some young people that I'd worked with before that were looking for projects that didn't have as much school, because schools had closed. So they had time on their hands and they were looking for some projects to support. And so I was able to get a small group of young people together to help build out this project. And a couple people from my team at the center were willing to do some of the graphic design work. And so we were able to do it over the past year and just launched it early this year, 2021. So that's kind of how it came to fruition. And it's been really fun and exciting to work with them on it.
Are you conscious that you are really an innovation, and you are working a step, I think, very, very important, because you are not only worry about help to learn, help to experience, have a good experience in social media, but you design and you develop from the beginning with these principles. And I think that is very, very important. And you are, I feel that you are showing a way. So also is a question that I was wondering is if it is GoodforMEdia an educational project platform for young people, or a healthy platform with wellness advice for young people that is similar but not the same?
Yeah, I think I would say that it's both. Um, I mean, I think that we want young people to be able to come on the platform or see it in their feed and get some quick quick tips or advice or strategies. We ask the people that submit videos or quotes, usually they need to be short. You can get quite a few if you just spend a few minutes on the site. You'll be able to hear from 4 or 5 young people if you're just there for a few minutes. And so I think you will be getting some strategies that can support your wellness when you're navigating. We have it divided into themes that have to do with some of the common trouble spots. Some of them are representation, like maybe diversity and gender representation, the over sexualization of images online, the pressure to be perfect, to really modify and curate your imagery, bullying. So there's sort of different categories, and so you can navigate to the topic that's of interest to you, and just hear from some peers that have found ways to really tolerate or get through some of that troubling content that they've experienced. Also, some of the positive ways that they use media. We also try to really emphasize the positive, since we all want to use it and engage with it. It's just trying to navigate more of the trouble spots. So I think that you will get some healthy guidance by interacting with the project, but it also is educational. And I'll have to say that even the young people who've been working on the project with me, even in the short time that they've been working on it, they've created some of their own self-awareness. So even in having to develop videos to put up here just to show and recruit other people, they've had to go through their own bravery in posting something that maybe they're being vulnerable, or sharing something that they're not comfortable typically sharing. It goes against kind of this perfect curated image. And so they've been really courageous in doing that, and I think have generated their own awareness, even in being part of the project. So I'm hopeful that as everybody decides to contribute, that they will gain some of that self-awareness and education through the process, and it might spur different ideas for how to interact with their own social media differently.
Okay. So from the beginning, we were working with teens and young people from the beginning. I understand. It's okay, no?
Yeah.
So they were developers, users, and designers from the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Very clear. We can say that you are going forward, you are walking steps to the future. And so, about the future, I would love to ask you, how do you imagine the future of GoodforMEdia project or platform?
Yeah, it's a bit unknown, but I think I'm excited just to follow the lead of the young designers that I'm working with on it. I think they come up with really exciting new ideas every week. They've been reaching out to people, like some influencers online, and they just did an interview with an artist, and that created some really interesting dialogue and content. And I'm hoping that there'll be some more of that interactivity with different people through the platform. I had originally thought that it could be something that, as there's more digital literacy introduced in schools, whether it's in elementary, middle school, some teachers pull together content to teach some of the aspects of digital citizenship or mental health, that maybe some of these quick videos could be useful as an enhancement to the curriculum that they're using, or just as something that they can let people know is out there. People can easily follow the account on Instagram or Twitter, and so it could just be kind of a supplement to some of what's already going out there, because it's really just one piece of a lot of information that we're trying to get young people to understand. But I hope that it will grow, and that it will show also how much wisdom young people have themselves, and that they really are experts, and that we should look to them as such and can look to them as such, and that we can really highlight their voices and take them to heart, and that they have a lot to contribute to us trying to design media differently in a way that's more healthy and supportive.
That's a very interesting, the live stream that you share with me, we share in general. I could feel in the eyes of kids and young people mm, I feel the consciousness of they had about this problem and about this experience, and it was shocking for me. And it's very interesting that people do know that live stream, because it's testifying the experience. We can perceive the experience you did. It's very interesting. So we can say that in this looking for the future, I wonder about the influencing power of this experience for others, for the market, for the universities, for the society. So, what is your thinking about, or your thoughts about the healthy influence that you think this project will produce in others? Especially, I am thinking in the developers.
Mm. Yeah.
In Stanford and in other places. No?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think building off of my last answer, I think that I would hope that it would showcase young people as part of the solution, that they are core stakeholders that should be involved in product design. And I know they are to some extent, but they're not always asked these types of questions. They might be asked questions about, the utility or the usefulness or the engagement of a product. But in terms of how a product makes them feel or impacts their self-esteem or mental health, I think those are important questions. And I think that there's been a lot of attention paid to really the technological aspects of these products, but not so much the social science and the how they impact our lives and our interactions with ourselves as well as other people. And so I hope that that becomes more of a central point of conversation, is how can these products be used to improve our lives and improve the way that we feel about ourselves and the way that we interact with our peers and our families and our culture and our community. So I do hope that young people's voices are given more weight. I also hope that just the impact on youth mental health continues to be something that's raised up as a priority area. I think that it's getting there, but a lot of it has come from a place of alarm, like when very severe harm is happening on a platform. And those are incredibly important things that we need to address as soon as possible. But there's also the things that are just, little bits that kind of nick away at your self-perception, or, just talk about your culture or your race or ethnicity that you're seeing, the images that you're seeing. And if they're just not really, you're not seeing yourself in those images, how that's impacting a young person. So there's a whole range of issues that I think we want to look at. And I just hope that these will be considered priorities for the industry as a whole moving forward.
Yes, what is very interesting for me is that how better is to generate a dialogue about ideas, not from another ideas, but from an experience. I think that is very, very strong and very, very, it's another level of the dialogue. So this influencing, I think that in this case, it would be wonderful to be about the experience, from the experience. That was I felt in the live stream we shared.
Absolutely.
it's very impact that when this experience is not only presented by professionals like you, but also by the users that find the experience. And I think that is a very interesting way to uh, not to abandon the ideas, but to talk from experience. And this is very important.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and you will learn things that you didn't think to ask if you just kind of open the dialogue up to the young people that are using it. Mm-hmm.
yes, I think that in nowadays, of course, they're important to have clear ideas and so important to share experiences. I think that's especially in young people, the experience is a key. So this is a very interesting approach, I think that you have. Okay, we talk about the how do you imagine the future of this platform that you develop, but this is also important. What do you think about the general evolutions of platform in general? What is now just exceeds and future platform. But what do you think will happen, for example, in the next 5 years with platforms?
Yeah, well, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I think we're at a pretty interesting juncture point as nations are starting to create regulation and policy to try to hold some standards for some of the platforms. So I do think we'll see more of that. I think that there's been enough concern raised by the general public about things that have happened on platforms, whether it's the hate speech and bullying happening or the election integrity questions. Mental health is obviously still a huge concern. So I do think that there will be a lot more scrutiny, hopefully, in that area, and maybe that will lead to some positive design changes. I hope that my hope is that we will not be so reactive, but we will spend some time really designing with intention and thinking through how we want these media products to improve our society as a whole. I think we need to answer those questions, and I hope we will. I'm not sure that we will in a cohesive fashion, but I think that some nations are doing that already. I think some platforms and products are trying to answer some of those questions within themselves. So I do think there will be a lot of innovation that comes as a result of those hard questions. And I think that there might be some of those innovations might be looking at more audience-based or like even subscription-based models of media engagement, which could be really interesting. I think, the question is always not limiting access. If you're going to create some kind of a paywall where you have to pay for a service to get a higher quality of product. So I think some of that will all be tried. I think that there's also going to be a lot of innovation in using technology to treat mental health issues and, so you can engage with mental health providers and general health care providers as well. So I think there's a whole nother side of the industry that's looking at how to serve people's healthcare needs through technology. And there's a lot of amazing innovation that can happen in that realm. It's, again, just a matter of doing so ethically and keeping privacy considerations in top of mind and figuring all that out. So I think there's a lot of innovation to come. That's my hope, and that's what we need. So that's what I would say. But I don't know. It's your guess is as good as mine, right?
About the future, we only can imagine things. I think that is important, and I am sure you perceive clearly this. We can perceive trends, no?
Yeah.
And have a clear perception of trends. I think we can assure what is the future, but we can approach probably to some lines. Okay. One thing that also I was wondering is about thinking in this experience about to think about uh, a more customized platforms. For example, you are for a special audience, for a special public. This is one way of customizing. But what do you think about the general concept of customizing platforms?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty interested in seeing how that model is explored. I mean, I do think there is this big question of have some of the typical social media platforms that people are engaging with today, are they just too big? Are they trying to account for too much diversity, too many varied opinions and perspectives? And I think it's an interesting question to explore. And there are groups of young people, which is the population obviously that I work with, who, really need to try to find their quote unquote tribe of people that they really connect with. Like one audience that comes to mind is like the LGBTQ plus population, that they really find a lot of connection and community online that they might not have in their family or in their friend circle, especially if they live in a community that's not as supportive of, of them as a whole. And so a customized community might really benefit people in those communities. And so I think it would be interesting to explore that. And I think that we will see more of that over the next few years. And it doesn't mean that we shouldn't make the more generalized platforms safe and supportive for everybody. I still think that that is a baseline that we should strive to achieve. But I do think that there's probably some value, in customizing for targeted groups, just like there is, when you do that with any type of product.
And besides this, also was thinking about the possibility of, like this case, to have a more flexible settings for users, because our actual platform are not so flexible. Now, what do you think about that possibility for the future?
I would love to see that. I would love to see more choice in users. I don't think users have enough choice. They're kind of stuck with whatever the platform has decided they are going to let them, see or not see. I know that there's been a movement towards the concept of privacy by design, which I fully support. And I think there's been some steps taken in that area, which is good, where like the default settings, especially for someone under 18, would be to not have public posts or not let people comment on their feed, those types of designs. I think that those make a ton of sense, and I would like to see more of that. But if you could even give the young person a lot of autonomy in making those choices, that would also be good. And I think some of the platforms do. I think the trick is that it takes a lot of time, and you need to really like understand your options, and not everybody reads all of the flexible choices that are provided, because I think some platforms would say that that's already available to them, and it is to some extent. But I think we have to make it easy for a young person who isn't quite as savvy or hasn't spent the time. We need to take some of those steps for them to make it as safe as possible up front. And then if they want to have more flexibility, they can choose to do that. So I would love to see more of that. I hope that we do see more of that.
Okay, and about this general motivation I presented at the beginning of the interview, I was thinking that there is a lot of ethic considerations. Um, I would love to hear from you about, for example, you are worried about young people under 18, and you are worried about parents' control, you are worried about privacy, you are worried about people be the owner of the proper information, it can be erased. So all these things, I believe that are really the heart of the innovation and the change. I perceive that you are working towards a more clear digital rights, and under this digital rights there is an ethic vision. So a few words, if you can say to the audience a message, your message, your ethic message about these things. You just say doing it, that is the more important thing. But I think that some words will be so useful to hear from you.
Well, thank you for asking that question. I appreciate you just asking that question because I think that we need to ask that more frequently. And I think that that would strengthen our design of products if we really did keep the ethics first and foremost in our minds. I think that what I tend to always just fall back on is that, I mean, we do want to support the free expression and the fun that we have on these platforms. I mean, there's a lot of really great benefits. I mean, we all get that from them. Otherwise, we wouldn't still be using them, and they would, not be so powerful and important in our lives. So there's clearly a benefit, and that's really important, especially for young people who are finding out who they are, trying to explore who they are, to be able to express themselves and explore creative outlets. So we want to see more of that. And we want the platforms to be tools to help young people do that. I think that the ethical underpinning that I always come back to is just that we need to care about the health and welfare of the young people using it, whether they're young people, whether they're adults. That, I mean, this is, I take a public health perspective when I look at it, that it's a service that you're providing to people, but you need to first not harm anybody with it. And there are ways to try to do that, but still maintain that expression and creativity. I think both can be achieved. And so I think it's finding the right balance, but really prioritizing the safety and the supportive environment that these platforms have. Because, you might be having a great time and expressing yourself in a wonderful feature that a platform has, but if someone has the ability to tear you down with hateful speech or, mock up an image and do damage with it, it's going to counterbalance the positive impact. And so we have to really weight health and well-being above the other considerations, and we have to get that right. And then I think that we can hopefully achieve what we're all looking for, which is these healthy communities that are fun and engaging and productive and allow for everybody's creative expression. So hopefully that made sense, but that's really what I think the ethics we all have is to the welfare of the user, the person using it, that we're accountable to them.
Yes, that is very interesting to me that you are a specialist in health, but from this point of view, healthy point of view, naturally, you arrive to not only to health, but we can say that you arrive to rights, and you arrive to a position about this use, this health and wisdom and rights. It seems that there are near or close.
Yeah.
And that's very interesting because usually we think health not so related to ethics or to rights. But in this experience, what I was thinking about, that this is all in relation, all in a synergy, and it's so interesting. Well, we are arriving right now that what was prepared to talk. So, but I want to, if you want, to say a message. You just say the message, but here's today's message for the audience. What do you want to say today for everybody who will hear you?
Well, yeah, thank you. I think I would reiterate what I just said, that I hope that we will accept the challenge to design with the well-being of end users in mind, and keep that first and foremost, which you said extends to their rights, and they're entitled to safe and supportive spaces. And so let's see if we can rise to that challenge and design them in ways that support young people. And I also just would reiterate the wisdom that young people have. And I hope that people will at least check out this Good4Media website, goodformedia.org, or you can go on Instagram or Twitter and follow it at Good4Media, and just see for yourselves what some of the messages are that these really wonderful young people have bravely put up there, and what they can teach all of us. I mean, you can gain insight whether you're a young person or an adult, and that I hope that we'll continue to elevate their voices and listen to them and try to support them. And I just really appreciate you asking these questions and highlighting our project and exploring these difficult situations that are really interesting. And I hope it inspires some new designers to do some things differently.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, really, I think you are working for a better world. This is our mission. And when we launched this organization, from the beginning, we was thinking in art and tech, in the human side, the technology side, together. So because of that, it's so interesting what you show us and did it. I am so honored to having you here. And also I want to highlight that I'm so honored to be in touch with you and with UC Stanford University. I have very clear that this is one of the great universities of the USA and the whole world, especially in technology. So it's very important that to promote this and to show the world about these possibilities that you are developing. So, Vicki, I am so thankful to you. I feel really comfortable with this interview. Well, I would love to continue another opportunity talking about the things and to know the evolution of this experience. So, thank you very much. Until the next opportunity.
Thank you so much.